Hello, this is Jay, and you are listening to the Walk With Me podcast, episode 6. And I got some feedback from our viewers that, in case we don't know each other well, I should start off with why you should care about me babbling on and actually be excited to go on these walks with me each week. So I am Jeannine Yoder. I am a New York Times featured celebrity life coach. I consider myself to be a soulful business runner and leader. I love to help women create businesses they love, doing work that they feel is their unique calling and purpose in the world. Most of the way I do this is through my signature program, Mentor Masterclass, which I've been running for 7 years, and I've helped thousands of women become successful life coaches and entrepreneurs who run soulful businesses and healing arts practices through the self-help industry. I started the Walk With Me podcast for women who are committed to having it all because it's what I've been committed to in my life and have created. And through mastery coaching techniques, intimate spiritual conversations, and a weekly practice where we literally walk together, I want to help you to create time, financial, and limiting belief freedom. And you should be listening to this podcast if you're ready to pursue your unique career calling, if you want to go from hiding out, being that best kept secret, to being sought after in your field, and if you want to feel guided along the path of launching your career in coaching, healing, or the self-help industry, I'm here to support you and connect you to a soul-powered sisterhood of women around the world. So, there you have it. I'm barefoot outside of my house once again on the beach. It's a beautiful day today. I am 18 weeks pregnant at the time of recording this for you, and this is your invitation to walk. I know not every week that you listen in are you going to be walking, but I hope for it to be a reminder, some accountability for you to move your body. If you remember a few episodes ago, it was raining outside, so I just walked around my house and was on my feet while listening. If you've had a busy day and you're in your car, or you are tired because you've been moving all day, it's totally okay to listen not walking. But there is something that happens where we access our unconscious mind and we open ourselves up to our deeper thoughts and patterns when we actually move while talking. So I do encourage you to move your body and walk beside me today. I am bringing a topic that stems off of everything that we've chatted about so far into today's episode and past episodes. You don't have to have listened to any of the past episodes to join me in this conversation, but it'll make sense if you have caught up on episodes 1 through 5. I want to talk to you about resistance and what we can do when it shows up, particularly when we're going after big things in our life, when we're trying to make a big change, go after something big. Resistance, because I've been facing my own resistance in so many forms and moving through it. So I want to share a bit of the reality of resistance and also some tips and techniques and conversation about how we can walk together through resistance. Before I say more about that and get into our episode today, again, I hope you're walking. We'll go on a 30-minute walk today. I hope that you will subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. We're on YouTube. We're going to be on Google Play. So please hit subscribe so that you'll get notified every week when we have a new episode. And please leave a review. I would love to know your feedback of the episodes, what you like, what's going well. And please email me any constructive feedback you have for things you'd like to see on future episodes or discuss, or ways I can make the podcast better to suit your needs. I love to hear from you, jey@JeannineYoder.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Jeannine.Yoder. My name is spelled Jean9, 3 N's total, .Yoder. The links are all in this episode description, and you can click on over and direct message me. But please leave a review. It helps more people to get access to this podcast and to walk with us and to know why it might be for them. So if you're loving it, please don't be silent. I create this content for you for free because I want to connect with you and support you. And so don't be creepy and hide. Make sure you leave a review or send me a message on Instagram to let me know that you've been walking along. And I hope to really get to know you and see you over this spring and summer as we go through these conversations and this evolution together. And also, I love to see photos of you on your walk. So I try to post them when I'm out walking with the hashtag Walk With Me podcast. And I'd love to see photos of you while you're moving. So let's get into it today. I have this vision that I am working toward really consciously every week. It's on my mind, and a lot of the content I'm bringing to this podcast and conversations are around what I'm going through with this vision of being able to slow down and remain successful. Being able to have less things on my to-do list each day while still running a huge business and a mission in the world. And I've been thinking a lot about, and I always have been driven toward the feminine rising, this concept of natural abilities, strengths, and wisdom that women hold that hasn't been honored and used enough in the workplace, in the approach to success, in the approach to financial freedom, and that the feminine is rising in all of these conversations that are happening in main media and in circles of women around the world, in corporate and in spiritual communities, where we're starting to recognize that the masculine structures created by men for men are not working for anybody, the men, the women, the children of our world, and there is perhaps value and merit in considering swinging the pendulum the other way. And I think it has to kind of swing far the other way to the full-on feminine approach before we find that equilibrium and balance of where the masculine and feminine merge to create a model that allows us to move through some of the problems and challenges in our world and in our personal life that we haven't been able to up until now. And I'm just starting to really recognize how much pressure our culture places on an extreme, absolutely impossible burden of being perfect and having high accolades of achievement, and that it isn't until we break down that burden, that expectation of perfection and productivity, that we're going to begin to break free from these psychological problems and this feeling of stuckness that we're having in our lives, where we're just spinning our wheels and getting nowhere, and our lives all the while are passing us by. And so I've just been really for the past few years working on this, but to a whole new level of degree over the last few months after losing my mom, getting pregnant, and facing this new vision I have for my life and my business. And, it actually stems from the weekend before my mom died. I was in a sister circle out in Massachusetts with some dear friends, and we were doing a training, a vocalizer training, to learn how to speak more intuitively and presently while leading groups of women in sister circle. And in that circle, I was surrounded by 8 other women who are all entrepreneurs who have built 6-figure businesses doing coaching, healing, entrepreneurial work in the self-help industry in some form. And every single one of them, ranging from spa owners to yoga studio owners to life coaches to business coaches, every single one of them was sharing that what they deeply desire most is just to simplify their life. And we are not really shown the value of simplification. We are kind of constantly in media, magazines, articles, daily life setup of how many hours we're expected to work and how much money we're expected to make to be able to maintain and grow to a beautiful lifestyle is all wrapped around the idea that we have to do and achieve more, growth, be productive all the time, power through. And that's what I'm talking about. That model was not created for women who live and breathe in a cycle. And it was not created for our world, for nature that lives and breathes in a cycle. And we are breaking down in so many forms our world, our health, each other. Our structures and systems are not sustainable because they're not shifting fast enough. And the only way they're going to shift is when we break free from this psychological idea and start setting our own standards and start carving a new path even when it's uncomfortable, and start creating a new way of being in our lives and in the world without having to give up on our dreams and our desires that are real, and sourcing our dreams and our desires like we did in episode 4 from a truer and more honest place of what we want, unburdened by old ideas of society. And the faster as women that we're able to do this for ourselves and make this leap and take the uncomfortable route, the faster our world will catch up and greater systems and structures will change. But we can't wait around for that to prove to us that we're safe. We have to create that safety and that trust and take that action for ourselves. So what am I talking about? Let me just get real of what this looks like in my own life, and it looks different for all of us. For me personally, it means I really have to trust that I can have the lifestyle I want, which for me is I like luxury things. I like to have good, healthy food from Whole Foods on the table that is clean and sourced from the highest and best graded places. I like to stay at luxury hotels. I like to travel the world. I want the best ambiance. I want the cleanest spaces. I want the most optimal experiences that ignite pleasure and joy, and where I feel supported and can relax when traveling. I want to never have to question if I want something. I want for my needs, the needs of my daughter and my husband to be met. And I want to have experiences that feel like they open up to the whole point of being alive. Experiences that ignite love, pleasure, sensuality, mystery. And for all of that, it feels like you have to have a lot of money. And in order to have a lot of money, there's always been this belief that you have to be hustling and working hard, powering through. And I want to have to resources in my life that comes from daily devotion to pleasure, ease, and flow. And I don't mean that I want to be lazy. And I don't mean that I don't want to be active. What I mean is I want to be present in my life. And what I mean is rather than seeking productivity and perfection, I want to seek excellence. And excellence to me means I'm vibrating at my highest frequency. I'm in love with my life. My passion for what I'm doing is thriving. And what I'm coming home to the remembering of is that level of excellence will have different meters and different seasons. And there will be times of planting intentional seeds, and there will be times of immense growth, and there will be times of grieving, and there will be times of silence and stillness, and there will be times of heat and movement and intensity, and that all of that is a part of the process, and all seasons are a part of moving forward and living deeply, and all parts are life, and all parts are being on track. And as I'm trying to create this, what's literally having to happen is all the structures and systems I've built within my business are changing. The way I work with my clients is changing. The way I spend my time each day is changing. And when you shift a pattern, when you go through change, resistance is a common side effect because we're not comfortable as human beings with change. We fear change. Our egos fear change. And it's one of the things I think if we cultivate a practice of getting more comfortable with change, then we become stronger and more stable in our lives. So I just want you to think about this with me. What is the change or initiation that you're experiencing in your life right now? Where are you shifting a pattern? Where are you trying to do something differently, and therefore resistance is popping up? There's a book I love, two books I love, actually, by Steven Pressfield. One is Turning Pro, which is a life changer for me. I read it in one day. I've read it 20 times since in one day or less. And it continues to be an inspiration. And he wrote another book called Do the Work. And in Do the Work, he talks about our enemies when we are trying to go after something new in our lives, make a change, come deeper into our creativity, elevate our own vision of how we want to be and who we want to be and what we want to achieve in our life. And the enemies against us as creatives, as artists, as entrepreneurs is one, resistance. And resistance really is just fear and self-doubt and procrastinating. It can show up in the form of addiction. It can show up by our distractions. It can show up by being timid. It can show up by being egotistical and narcissistic. It can show up by being self-loathing. It can show up through perfectionism. And I've seen this in all of my clients in one way or another. They are becoming coaches. They are stepping out of the corporate boxes and the structures their family and systems put around them and starting to define how they want to live and how they want to create excellence, sustainability, and success in their life. And it either shows up in fear that leaves them unmoving, self-doubt where they believe they must have something that's missing, constant procrastination. Usually they have some kind of addiction, whether it's to lovers or narcotics or food or alcohol. Distractions in their life, a lot of the time it's in the form of other family members needing their care. Being timid and slow, or having such a strong ego that they can't even receive the support or get through the challenge. And a lot of self-loathing and perfectionism. Self-loathing like never-ending healing journeys, and perfectionism like not putting themselves out there because they don't have things perfectly. So lots of different forms of resistance. Resistance is one of the enemies of being an entrepreneur and an artist and creative and healer. The second is too much rational thought. Not enough intuition, not enough belief in magic, overly obsessed with the brain and rational thought. Total enemy. And then it's friends and family, the final one. And the whole reason around that is because our friends and family are what keep us held so tight to our old identities. And I want to talk about what resistance is so that we can notice it and know how to work with it so it's not the stopping point for us and we can keep moving and get to the other side. I've had to do this in many cycles in my life, and I'm going through it pretty intensely again. And it's funny because as I'm talking, I know that I'm going to be on the other side of this, And sometimes I'm sharing what I'm going through and thinking, is it really that big of a deal? But what's true and what I know you must relate to is that in the moment, these bigger concepts are so challenging to integrate and feel so difficult. I remember just last week being on a sister circle call and weeping because there's this part of me that is always so resistant to change and feels like something's wrong. Like with my husband, because we have gone through this phase of having a child and it has been challenging to adjust to, and our lives have become so different in the past 3 years and will change again as we have this baby. It's like I have this thought that because we're not in our honeymoon phase, which for us was so beautiful and lasted for like 3 years, we were just obsessed, in love, super passionate, just obsessed with each other. And we've been together for 14 years now, married for 10, almost 11. And now those moments come, but they're not consistent. It's not every day for 3 years I'm passionately in love. Some days I'm so angry at Brent, and other days I'm obsessed. And there's this idea somewhere in my system that something's wrong because that honeymoon phase has changed into something else. And with my business, it's this idea that I just want things to stay the same. I want to run the same programs that have worked. I want to serve the same women. I want to work the same hours and same schedule that I worked to create because I love my work. And there's this idea that because it's changing, something's wrong or off. And with my friends, I never want my friends to change. My friends who are close friends now, I want them to remain my close friends forever. And something came up in that circle. My friend Ginny said to me, I was like, what is the thing I can hold on to not suffer through this deep calling that I have to go through this change, and to know that I'm supposed to be trusting, and to know that change is good, and to know that trying to harvest the same seeds in the same soil over and over again is only creating a lack of nutritiousness and love and pleasure in my life, and that the slowing down and the not needing to harvest right now and then planting new soil and new seeds and giving that time and space to occur is what I'm meant to do. But how can I manage to not suffer while going through this? And we chatted about it and came to this idea that that's the beauty of grieving. She lost her dog, her best friend, I should say. Her dog died very close within a month of my mom dying, and we were both intensely grieving. And I think the nugget that we pulled is that we need to get good at grief, because there's so much letting go that has to happen in our lives. And when we get better at letting go, we get better at not suffering in life. And we get better at feeling more consistent joy, no matter the change or no matter the challenge. And grieving really is about being with what is and accepting what is and allowing yourself to have feelings. And so part of what came to be for me is this allowance of grieving the change and honoring that it's hard to let go of having things the way that they've been. And I had a ritual around it. I came out to the beach, the same beach I'm walking with you on right now, and had a letting go ceremony and a fire ritual, and just allowed myself to sit and cry about all the things that are changing. And it really was after that I started to feel like I can get excited about what's coming in now too. So I've been thinking about that and these enemies, resistance and rational thought and friends and family. And I'm really acknowledging, that when resistance comes up and when it's going to be at its peak, because when you know when it's coming, you'll know that nothing's wrong and it's just part of the process. And it's to be expected. And then you can actually probably catch it even better too. So resistance is going to come. There's 11 times when you can guarantee in your life resistance is going to come, or 11 scenarios, okay? The first is anytime you pursue any kind of calling in your life, whether it's writing or painting or music or film or dance or art, whether it's a small endeavor or a huge endeavor, resistance is going to arise. The second is anytime you try to launch any kind of entrepreneurial venture or any kind of enterprise that's for profit or for pleasure. And the third is, of course, you know this, any diet. Anytime you try to shift your health in some way, resistance will come. The fourth is any kind of program that you do or devotion that you make to spiritual advancement. The fifth is any activity that's goal is to chisel or get better or define a greater existence in some form. The sixth is any course or program that you take that's designed to overcome a habit or an addiction. The seventh is education of any kind. The eighth is any kind of act of political or moral or ethical courage. And that could include making decisions to change something for the better, or some unworthy thought, or some thought or conduct in yourself or in society. The ninth is the undertaking of any enterprise or endeavor that's aim is to help other people. Number 10 is any act that asks you to commit your heart, like the decision to get married or to have children or to weather a rocky path in a relationship in your life. And finally, 11 is the taking of any principled stand in the face of adversity. And so when I look at that list that I first found and read through Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield, I realize I'm going through almost all of those right now. Many of them, at least 8 of the 11, are in this scenario of attempting to change the way that I work and make money, change my beliefs about the world and myself, and help others, particularly women, to do the same. And for the past 10 years, I've been coaching women who are going through also like 8 of these at the same time. And pretty much any time we go after anything that redirects getting immediate gratification in favor of long-term growth or health or integrity, you can expect that you're going to bump up against resistance. And so then the question becomes, what do we need to know about resistance to recognize it? And then what do we do? So a few things to note. If you're going through any of those 11 things, resistance is absolutely going to pop up and already has. And the other thing is to know it's invisible. Resistance can't be seen. It can't be heard. It can't be touched. It can't be smelled. But it can be felt. And we experience it as an energy field radiating from the idea of potential. And it's this like repelling force that has a negative energy. And the aim of the energy is just to shove us away or to distract us or to prevent us from moving forward. A big part of this shift in my work is this vision for this documentary that I want to do, and I already started filming for. And I got through the first bout of resistance, and as I'm talking to you, I'm just recognizing that I'm stuck in resistance again. So I need to take the concepts of this conversation and actually apply them. So I'm going to do that right now to help me work through, because I just became aware of it. The other thing is that resistance is insidious. It's going to reason with you like a lawyer at a trial. It's going to shove a gun in your face and say, you're going to die. This is too hard. Turn around and run the other way. That's what it feels like. And we have to be able to chat back at the chatty, egotistical lawyer with our own firm lawmaking, and we have to be able to stare that bullet in the face and walk away with pride and confidence. And resistance is mind chatter. It is not our real thoughts. It is not what's truly possible. It is not our intuition. It is not factual. It's chatter that comes from an unconscious place. And it's also impersonal. Like, resistance isn't out to get you personally. It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't care about the actual thing you're going after or the result. It doesn't even know the potential of that thing. But it's a force of nature, and it acts objectively. And it operates with the indifference of rain or shine. But it's under its own law. And it's there with the idea that in some form, it's going to protect you from something that it doesn't know anything about. And this is true every time it pops up. And the other thing to really note about resistance is that it's universal. We're wrong if we think we're the only ones struggling with it. Everyone who has a body experiences resistance. And it never sleeps. The fear doesn't go away. It's more that when we are able to embrace our fierceness, the openness of our heart, the necessity of our mission, and bring that every day, it overrides the fear, but the fear doesn't go away. And there's no one that's living without resistance or fear. No one you can think of. Oprah Winfrey, Donald Trump, Jesus, everybody experiences resistance. And resistance really aims to kill. It aims to shut you down. And it's your job not to let it win. And so some of the ways that we can do that are also to recognize the other pieces that stand right next to resistance. Rational thoughts. Instead we want to work from our inner self and our intuition and our instinct and our unconscious. And family and friends, because the last thing we want to do is remain as we are. So we have to prepare ourselves to make new friends, to invite new mentors, and they will appear. And when they appear, you have to allow yourself to invest in that relationship and to trust. So our allies against resistance, against rational thought, against friends and family who want us to stay the same are 6 things. 1, being a little stupid, not actually knowing all the details of the new endeavor. I'll say more in a second. 2, being persistent and stubborn. 3, having blind faith. 4, having passion and purpose. 5, receiving support, receptivity. And 6, friends and family. Friends and family are your allies as much as they are your enemy. So, what I mean by this, and how we can work together through resistance, and how I've worked through resistance in the past to leave my corporate job, to move to New York City, to pursue musical theater and Broadway, a crazy artist endeavor, to fall in love and change my whole career, to have the lifestyle I wanted with my soulmate, to have a child, to run a 6-figure, multi-6-figure, and then almost 7-figure business as a coach and entrepreneur, then to have a second baby and allow all the walls and structures of that business to crash down to create something even more sustainable and better, is with these principles, working through resistance every step of the way. So, staying stupid. I really mean that. Think about children. They have no trouble believing the unbelievable. Nor does a genius or the Mad Hatter. It's only those of us stuck in resistance with our big brains and our tiny hearts who doubt and overthink and hesitate. So we have to stop thinking and we have to start acting from an intuitive, aligned place. You have to flex the muscle of your intuition, and this is why I believe the feminine is rising, because that is the gift you're born with. If you have a woman's body with hormones and cycles that are synced up to nature and the moon, you know how to think instinctually. You know how to act in the moment. Your wisdom comes from so much farther and beyond what your brain could even hold. And so next, you have to take that wisdom and be stubborn and be persistent. Because once you devote yourself and commit yourself to action, the only thing that can harm you is if you stop. And the only thing that will keep you from stopping is just good old being stubborn. I'm not talking about being a perfectionist. I'm talking about seeking excellence and having a standard for yourself and a stubbornness that says, I will not be stubborn. And blind faith is your best friend, because our biggest ally is believing something that we cannot see or hear or touch or taste or feel, and really believing in it so much that it keeps us going. And that leads to your passion. Really, like thinking about painters like Picasso or composers like Mozart, or a child and the way it can play all day long. You have to think that you may think that you've lost your passion, or that you can't identify it, or that you have so much of it that it threatens to overwhelm you. But none of these are true. It's fear that takes away your passion. And when you conquer your fear, you discover that there's limitlessness, that there's bottomlessness, that there's an inexhaustible well of passion that you can pull from. And receiving support is vital. I have witnessed this in my own life. You can only get so far being the lone warrior with those first steps. The next step is actually receiving support, having a mentor in your life, and having allies that surround you and support you in getting to that next level, in going through that breakthrough, holding hands. If you try to do it as a lone warrior, you'll get stuck, and that will be your upper limit, and that's as far as your passion and vision can take you. And finally, friends and family. The only two things that remain are your inherent genius and the hearts we love. That's the only two things that remain. And your family and relationships in your life, if you teach them who you're becoming, if you invite them along in the healing, if you heal those relationships, if you teach them how to treat you, if you allow new friends and new family, new mentors to come in and cultivate relationships consciously, creating a soul sisterhood, a soul brotherhood, you will get to the other side of resistance. You will achieve the vision. There is nothing stopping you. And the main thing that I've noticed in anything where I've actually overcome intense resistance and gotten to the other side of an incredible success in my life is that it comes from starting before I feel ready. Really beginning. And that's what I'm in right now. I don't fully know what I'm doing. The vision isn't complete. A lot of these pieces are true for me, and I'm leaning into those pillars. Those pillars I just shared with you. Those allies of stupidity and stubbornness and faith, blind faith, and passion and purpose, and support and friends and family. Like my life depends on it, because it does. Because I refuse to stay in a mediocre pattern. I refuse to keep being a part of this outdated structure and way of living our human lives and taking care of our planet. And this is my initiation right now. My initiation is about simplifying my life, being present so all of my power is here, and redefining how I live to create success, what success means, and being able to have luxury and pleasure without that costing me my time and energy. And to create that change for any woman who's doing business, for any woman who has a mission, for any woman who's trying to lead and help others, and who knows that that is what she was born to do. So I would love to hear from you, and to know which one of those forms of resistance is coming up most for you. Resistance itself, and in what way? Is it addiction, perfectionism, self-loathing? Or is it rational thoughts or friends and family? And what's the main pillar that you can lean on right now, the main ally that you haven't tried yet, that you haven't embodied yet, that you haven't put into practice? And bringing that on board. Do you need to be a little bit more naive? Do you need to get a bit more stubborn? Do you need to have more faith and trust and stop trying to control? Do you need to remember and source your passion? Do you need support? Do you need friends and family? Which one of those can you lean into most? And when I think about this part of the thing that's shifting my business is I just want to have space for this passion project, this documentary, and I think about those 6 things. The one that I haven't really brought on board, I've almost been keeping it a secret, this project, and doing it super lone warrior. So I relate to that shift at the end of leaning into more support and friends and family. So I want to talk about the documentary and bring more friends and family on board to see if that helps me get through this next layer of resistance that's coming up around this huge project that I just know is an initiation in itself and part of this change I'm going through. So thank you for walking with me today in this conversation around resistance. And I want to hear from you. So there's a link below this episode to the blog and also to my Instagram. Send me a direct message. Shoot me a picture with the hashtag WalkWithMePodcast on your walk today. What came up for you in relationship to resistance? And what is the ally that you can lean into in a bigger way? And hopefully you know that there's always nothing you really need to do after our walks, because the conversation itself creates awareness, and awareness creates a consciousness shift, and there's nothing you have to do. That's the rational thought part. You don't even have to wrap your rational mind around what we've talked about. All you have to do is let yourself become aware, and the shift, the change, the ease comes just from that. So, my love, until next week with our Walk With Me episode, we are complete for today. Thank you for listening in, and good luck with your new relationship with resistance.